Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Welcome to the show. I'm Lisa Williams, and today we have LaQuita Sharee Lewis-Poole, and she is on a mission. That mission is to empower women entrepreneurs through entrepreneurship. LaQuita dedicated herself and her career to helping others with a passion for transformational lifestyle and business coaching. LaQuita enables people to develop the mindset necessary to break free from the tediums of a job. LaQuita enables people to develop the mindset necessary to break free from the tedium of a job and into the freedom and fulfillment of having their own company. LaQuita founded LSL Media Publishing, and most recently, LSLP Global Empowerment, and her goal is personal and business success for her clients. LaQuita graduated from Oklahoma City University and worked as a mental health professional and case manager to hundreds of families and teens before she became a professional certified coach. With over 15 years of experience and knowledge, LaQuita continues her passion for helping others by teaching people how to create a lifestyle they desire on their own terms. LaQuita is the author of several books on developing the confidence to break through and accomplish one's business and life goals. Some of those books are Break the Money Curse, Dreams to Reality, The Life Lessons Guide, and Exit Strategy. In her spare time, she enjoys shopping, traveling, going to the movies, fashion, and quiet time, meditating and reading. Please welcome to the show, LaQuita Lewis-Poole.
Hello. I feel absolutely amazing and grateful to have this opportunity.
We're glad to have you. Well, let's get started. Today, we're going to talk about the growing number of Black women in business, how we've evolved, and what it'll take to help African American women in business run successful businesses. Let's get started. Black women have always had an entrepreneurial spirit. From our great-grandmothers who cleaned houses for a living and sold fish dinners at churches, to the many African American women who rose to the tops of their industries, including Michelle Obama, the first African American First Lady of the United States, Sheila C. Johnson, founder of BET, becoming the first African American woman billionaire, Oprah Winfrey, having the #1 daytime talk show in America, Serena Williams, #1 in women's singles tennis, Janice Bryant, owner of the largest minority woman-owned employment agency in the United States, and Ursula Burns, the first African-American woman CEO of a Fortune 500 company. And of course, the list goes on and on. In fact, according to the 2015 State of Women-Owned Business Report, the number of women-owned businesses grew by 74% between 1997 and 2015. The report also stated that 33% of women-owned firms are owned by minority women, and Black females are amongst the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs in the U.S. It's wonderful to know that African American women entrepreneurs are the fastest growing segment of entrepreneurs in the U.S. What a great statistic. So it's important that we don't let this momentum die. Now, more than ever, African American women entrepreneurs need resources available to help them not just be in business, but grow in business. The biggest hurdle African American women business owners face is that many are first-generation entrepreneurs, and they lack exposure to other Black women in business that have successful businesses from which they can glean habits and proven processes from. Let's look at an example of just how important having a role model accessible to you can be. Here is what Jessica Alba, actress and CEO of The Honest Company, said about having someone that you can call on.
As far as mentors go, countless. I was not shy about making phone calls to many people. I've been fortunate enough to know people like Tory Burch and Diane von Furstenberg, and they, got lots of emails and phone calls from me along the way with tears in my eyes, saying, I don't know if this is possible. Why is everyone telling me no? What do I do? What does it even mean to get venture capital? What is venture capital? What's a board? Like, I just didn't know all these business terms. And so they helped me understand it. And it's nice having women that you can look to and rely on.
Incidentally, her husband, Cash Warren, a Yale graduate, producer, and tech investor, introduced Jessica to his childhood friend, Brian Lee, an entrepreneur who co-founded LegalZoom. And the women Jessica reached out to, Tory Burch, who is a New York fashion designer, and Diane von Furstenberg, who is a billion-dollar fashion designer. Unfortunately, most African American women don't have the same access and connections that Jessica Alba was blessed with. Black female entrepreneurs need a supportive network of African American women business owners that we can learn from. It's time to talk, share, and provide resources and roadmaps to Black women in business. We need successful mentors to inspire African American women on their journey in business. I have lined up a variety of successful, prominent, and leading African American women in business across many industries to share their paths and secrets to their success. They will discuss their journey not only as women in business, but more importantly, how they grew successful businesses in spite of the unique challenges faced by African American women business owners. Forgive my cloudy voice, but the show must go on. So let's get into the show.
My first question to you is, how do you feel being a part of this historical time for African American women in business?
Actually, I feel awesome. I'm actually honored to be a part of this historical group of women. And oh my God, it's like so amazing because I didn't even know, like through my experience, that I was part of this group of women. So when I found out, it just really touched my heart. And I'm just happy and eager to teach other women entrepreneurs how to become a part of history as well.
That's a great response. And yes, many people aren't aware of that statistic, but for such a time as this is the greatest time for women in business and African American women specifically.
Yes, ma'am.
So a good story isn't a good story until we can understand where you started. So how'd you get started in the business?
So for me, it began about 16 years ago. When I got pregnant with my first son. Then I had to start taking things seriously. Even before I had my son, I was in a 2-year college. I had already started college and was already on my own. And once I got pregnant, I was like, oh, I'm getting ready to bring another life into this world. And I did not want him to have to experience the kind of life that I did, like what most people, we grew up in, in certain communities that was basically for the less fortunate. My mom never knew what an entrepreneur was, so we didn't have all the things that a lot of our opportunities back then that a lot of people have these days, even myself. And so when I became pregnant, I immediately went into entrepreneurship mode. I said, I don't want to work for anybody. I definitely want to have my own business someday because I want to be able to do whatever I want to do with my son and not limit him like I was limited growing up, where we couldn't do a lot of things. We had to share our clothes with each other. I was the oldest, and we had to pass down things to our sister and sometimes even our brother. Sometimes we all had to wear the same things. And so that's how I grew up, and I did not want my son to have to experience that. And so I made a commitment that I was going to continue college, go and finish to get my 4-year degree. I did graduate, and while I was doing that, even before I went on to receive my Bachelor's of Arts degree, I had already started working 2 jobs outside of going to school. I was working a job during the week, and then I got a weekend job.
With a newborn baby?
Yes. This was before he even was born.
Okay.
This was before I even had him. Yes, while I was pregnant, I was working during the week, going to classes in the evening, and then I was going on the weekend working at the hospital. And I was preparing myself. for this world that honestly I didn't have a clue of how it was going to be. I just said, I want to make sure I had the money so I wouldn't be limited at whatever it is. At the time when I first started school, I was on Section 8 and I was on food stamps. I went through the system. I've been through that. And I used it to help me get through school. But once I had my son, I said, okay, by the time I have my son, I set goals early that I didn't want to be in the system. I didn't want to be a part of it. I wanted to be able to work and do whatever I need to do to take care of my son. So as time went by, I did that. After I had my son, I never stopped going to school. Even when I was in the hospital preparing for his birth, I was still taking classes online.
How about
and
that?
I just didn't stop. Yes, I didn't stop. I kept going, went on to get my BA degree, and I taught. I was like, okay, everybody's talking about degrees. I got my BA degree. Now I'm supposed to go out here and I'm supposed to conquer the world. Well, harsh reality is a bachelor's degree at the time got me a little bit further than just having a high school diploma, but not quite where I wanted to be. I still struggled, had to get back on the system to help with daycare costs because I had no idea that it would be so expensive once you got out the system and you have to pay for it on your own. And so once I experienced what it was like to have to pay for daycare and for rent and bills and all that stuff by myself, I was like, okay, this is not as easy as I thought it would be. But I didn't give up. I didn't just say, okay, well, this is going to be too hard. I kept going. I said, well, I'll go back to DHS, the system, to help me. And I was honest with my work. I said, look, here's my goals. This is what I want to do. In a couple of years, I want to go get my master's degree. But right now I'm in transition. Just had a baby. I'm trying to do it on my own. And he was very ill at the time. He suffered a chronic condition where he couldn't drink the milk and he was staying constipated and always up all the time and things like that. So my son was very ill and I had to deal with that on top of school and working 2 jobs and trying to make things work. But I did it. I never once thought about quitting. I always said I have to do what I got to do to get to the next level. And so I continued. And eventually things worked out. I found a sitter who was very nice and considerate, and she would keep him for days at a time. I upped the ante on getting another job. At that time, I was working 3, a day job, a night job, and a weekend job because I wanted to start my own business. And I knew at
Let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
What
yes,
do you
ma'am.
think was your number one push and motivation to press through all of that with having a newborn?
My number one motivation was my grandmother. My grandmother raised me, and she always told me, which I know a lot of people's grandmother probably told her this, when the times get tough, that's the time to keep going, pressing through. She always taught me, press through whatever times get hard, keep pressing, keep going, don't give up, because your breakthrough is right on the other side of that. And even as young as I was, I always believed that because I seen that with her. When times got hard, she didn't give up. She didn't even talk about giving up. It was like, okay, times is hard. We got to keep pushing because that means something is just over the other side.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you this.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So transitioning from that time to your current businesses, what is your business now? Who do you work with and who do you help?
From transitioning from there, it was a journey because where I am now, I had no idea I would be. Right now, I'm working with aspiring women entrepreneurs and women entrepreneurs because I take them from them saying that this is what they want to do to now this is what they are actually doing. What has always been like a pet peeve of mine is when people say that they want to do something and then 2 months, a year go by and they still saying, I want to do that. But how I help them get past that is let's sit down and actually put action steps in place. Do one step at a time. A lot of people look at the whole picture at once and get overwhelmed. as opposed to sitting down and putting steps in place where, okay, I want to start my own business, but I got to do this, and this. Well, let's not worry about that. Let's sit down and say, okay, what kind of business do you want to start? What is your desire? What's in you? What do you crave? What do you love that you want to do? Mm-hmm. So I like to break things down into small steps. They're more accomplishable for people, as well as I noticed working with the families that I've worked with, when you break it down, it seems a lot easier than it does to look 5 years down the road.
Yes, it is. And in any industry, there are things people believe that may or may not be true about a process. What are two needs or problems, real or perceived, that your clients or prospects have that you help them with? So in essence, they might believe this, but really it's that. What would that be for you when you help coach clients?
The number one problem that I see that is really real when I'm working with clients is believing that they don't have the money. Money is always the number one issue. I don't care if it's to go back to school, to do whatever you want to do successful in life. It's always, but I don't have the money, or I don't have enough money, or I don't know how to get the money.
And what's the truth about that?
And the truth about it is, if this is what I tell my clients, is the truth about it is, if God gave you that desire, the doors will open once you say yes to the commitment of making it happen.
That's great. And that's a great segue into our next set of questions. So as an African-American woman in business, let's talk about what your path has been like as you navigated your entrepreneurship. So take me from, your son being born and those early struggles to where you are now. Can you kind of fill that gap there in the middle?
Yes. From my first son to about 6 years after him, I ended up pregnant and having my second son. And at this point is when I decided to go back and get my master's degree. And at that point, I had decided already that I knew for a fact I was going to start my own business. At that time, I wanted to open a facility for youth, for troubled youth. I had previously worked as a juvenile detention officer and did an intern as a probation officer for Office of Juvenile Affairs, and I wanted to do something to help troubled youth. And so I went back and got my master's degree thinking that I was going to start a facility for youth. But when I got done with my master's degree, again, things wasn't as easy as I thought it would be. And God started showing me things through my dreams that was taking me on a different path than what I had already been on. And so I started exploring some of the things in my dreams, such as opening a nonprofit organization for young teen mothers who had children and for whatever reason dropped out of school or was not living at home anymore and needed help on getting back on the right path. And so that's when I started back in 2008. I started a nonprofit organization called Teen Mother Second Chance. And from there, as I started working with the youth even more, working through the schools, the juvenile system, working with the Department of Human and Health Services, God was showing me, at that time, I had two sons. I knew what it was like. I was desiring truly to have a daughter, but he was bringing all these young girls to me. I was never a teen mother.
That? Yeah.
Yes. I was never a teen mom, and everybody thought I was because I was relating to them so well, but it wasn't that. It was that desire that I had to have a little girl. He started sending me all these girls, and I mean a lot, in Dallas and in Oklahoma. He started sending me all these girls, so I was constantly helping them and doing things with them. I went back into working several jobs just to help other people's children through this program I was trying to have. And then both of my sons got really ill.
Oh, wow.
And this is where the turning point was for me. My oldest son had been struggling with anxiety and headaches since he was about 3 years old. But it started to get worse as he got older and started going to middle school. And so about 2010, I believe it was, he had an episode that was really, really bad. And the school said that he couldn't come back because he was missing 3 to 4 days a week at school and because of these really bad migraines. And we went through specialist after specialist trying to find out. Nobody knew what was going on with him. So I said, okay, I'm going to pull him out.
And you said you would homeschool him?
This is what we got to do. Yes, ma'am. I pulled him out to homeschool him in 6th grade. And then a few months after that happened with him, or actually a couple of months, because that was in November, and then the beginning of January, my youngest son was still in school. He came down with a terrible illness that they still don't know what was wrong with him, where we almost lost his life because he was swelling from one side of his face to the other, back and forth, and they hospitalized him for a couple of weeks and never knew what it was. I feared it was something he got from school, so I pulled him out, and I made the courageous decision to homeschool both of my children in the process of running a business and working 3 jobs.
That had to be extremely difficult.
It was definitely difficult, but that experience is what brought me to life coaching, because trying to run a business, in the process of that, I was starting a new business venture, which was a counseling agency for youth and families, because at that time I was working as a therapist under supervision and a behavioral health rehabilitation specialist. And so I was like, okay, well, it's time to start my own real business. Like, this is really like putting a lot of things together to start a business and really have the income I need to raise my children. And it was probably the most difficult time in my life, because I was trying to learn how to be a homeschooling mother, trying to start a business, trying to work jobs, and trying to deal with my children all together. And to be honest, when people ask me, how do you do it? All I can say is I prayed. I asked for guidance every day. Asked God how to get through this. What is the next step? What do you want me to do? It just didn't seem like it was feasible. Everybody told me I couldn't do it, but I did it.
Right.
I did it. And it was great. And so I got to a point where the more that I was working with my own children, I started seeing things that I didn't see before when they were going to school. And I was like, I need to get more into, kind of actually feeling what it's like to help kids really get the social skills and the life skills, because what I realized working with kids and then having to see it with my own kids is they're going to school and we're teaching them English, social studies, math, and all this stuff, but they're not really learning that stuff. When you ask them, what are you going to school? What are you doing in school? It's like, oh, I'm going to play with my friends and we're going to hang out and this and that. But what did you learn?
Sure.
Well, Mama,
and we can go down the road
today.
Right. Yeah. We could really go down the road on that one, but we're going to kind of stay with information having to do with helping African American women business owners.
Right.
So that testimony and that walk that you just shared was pretty incredible. What would you say to other business owners, women, about starting, staying, and sticking it through to reach a level of success in their business?
I would say be fearless and unstoppable. That was 2 words that came to me when I was struggling just a few years ago after I became a life coach, not really knowing the business, but just trying to find my way. And I remember I was talking to a coach and she was telling me, well, with life coaching, you just kind of got to feel your way around till you find out where you fit. And she said, no matter what you do, be unstoppable. And so I put fearless and unstoppable because you're going to get a lot of things that's going to come against you. You're even going to get things like I did that make you think, is this really what I want to do? Is this really for me? Because there's some big obstacles out there that you have to be able to get past. And so my thing is, I always say, be fearless and unstoppable. Don't be fearful of anything and don't stop until you get what you want.
That's excellent. So we have other Black women that have accomplished great successes, a plethora like those mentioned earlier, other African American women such as Taraji P. Henson, Kamala Harris, Shonda Rhimes, and countless others. Can you share a nugget to help women that are just starting a business? Just to share a nugget.
A nugget I would give, it would be get crystal clear on what you desire before you do anything. Know exactly what it is that you desire, because many times we just want to start a business because we look at the money aspect. But if you really don't have heart and that's not what you desire, it will eventually crumble. You want to make sure. That was one of the biggest things for me, is being crystal clear on what it is that you actually want to do. What kind of successful business do you really want to have?
And what would you say is most important to have a successful business?
I would say a positive mindset. I would say a positive mindset is definitely the most important thing out of all things.
Okay, here's a fun question for you. If you could share something with your younger self, let's say 15 years ago, about being in business, what would it be?
I would say from 15 years ago, get really clear on your desire and then take immediate action. Don't wait. Don't chance it to other people's opinions or let other people tell you you're crazy. I would say as soon as you get crystal clear on what you want to do, take immediate action, and don't be afraid to show the world your uniqueness.
That's nice. As I explained in the introduction, one of the greatest challenges African American women face in business is the lack of successful African American women role models in their community. So let's talk now specifically about the unique challenges African American women business owners face. And I have a list for you to pick from. Hopefully you picked one of these. But share with me one category that you can relate to that you struggled with or were challenged with and how you got past it. So just real quickly, one of the challenges that women face, particularly African American women, is family, that they don't understand your entrepreneurial walk. Another is friends that don't necessarily own their own business, so they can't give you valuable input all the time. No role model to call on. We're coming, but there have been fewer role models for us to call on and reach out to. Business acumen. A lot of times we don't have the working knowledge that's required to run a successful business. Knowing business terms, like Jessica Alba referred to. Many African American women business owners don't know the meaning of important business terms, and women in general. Seeking capital is another area, not knowing how or where to go about that, and juggling being a single parent or a single woman. We also tend to lack relationships with other successful business owners to glean information from, and many times as African American women, we don't invest in ourselves. We're not at personal development seminars or hiring a business coach. And lastly, volunteering. Unfortunately, our culture has not brought us up to volunteer. Pretty much what we see is what many of us do when we help with church. So, LaQuita, I ask you, which one of those areas can you share with us and give some insight on how you struggled possibly in that area?
Yes. And to be honest, I've had to deal with several of these areas, but
and
I
most
would
of
say
us have.
the main, yes. Yeah. I would say the main thing that I'm able to help other women is about juggling being a single parent. I was a single parent up until about a year and 3 months ago. I got married to, someone who I've known for over 17 years, but
talk to us about that transition, that difference from being a single parent business owner to being a married business owner, if you will.
Transition, let's see.
The difference, the
difference. Okay, so the difference for me is I worked very, very extremely hard when I was a single parent to be a successful business owner. Technically, when I got married, I kind of had to pull back. It was something that I had been praying for and asking God for because I've always wanted a family and I've always wanted to be married. And I knew in my earlier days being a single parent that my work was consuming me and I didn't even have room to bring in that part of my life. So actually, yes. And so when I actually got married, one of the things that we talked about before I even said yes was the fact that, okay, you got to let me be the man and support you and do all these things that I had never even experienced before because I'm so used to taking care of myself and doing what I needed to do to have things get done. And so we had hard. Yeah, it was hard. And I'm not going to pretend here it's still hard because when I first got married, because he is my we're good, really good friends before we even got married. He knew me, so he knew how hard I worked. But he said he would work with that. And so along the way of our marriage, I still had to submit. I had to submit because I can see myself where work was taking over and I didn't have time for a husband. And he had to make me see, okay, you're married. You got kids. You got to slow down, Quita. You can't keep putting so much on you. I'm here now. I'm here to help you. And I know many times I never talk about this because most of the time you hear people saying, well, I got a husband. He helps me in this. My husband stands back and let me do the business stuff, but he will definitely remind me that you have a family.
That's a very good share and point there for many women to hear and listen to. That's a very important point. Let me ask you this. Did you grow up with entrepreneurial examples, or are you a first-generation entrepreneur?
My aunt was a massage therapist, and until I became an entrepreneur, I didn't know that was something that you would call being an entrepreneur because she never talked about it. We just knew that was her job. She went to school for it. That's it. But when I became an entrepreneur, she started talking to me more and was like, I've been doing this for years. This is what I was doing when you were 13 years old. So I kind of know the ropes of it, but she still was not a big influence because it was like, she's my aunt, but it wasn't somebody that I talked to on a daily basis or even a monthly basis. Like she would be out doing her thing and we were doing our thing. And so in my eyes, I was a first generation because everybody under me is looking at me. My mom is looking at me. You know, my grandparents was looking at me. Nobody was saying, they've always said, you're the oldest grandchild. You're the first one. You're the one that went to college first. You're going to be the one to do this first. And that's what it looks like in my eyes.
Sure. So there are many articles online about entrepreneurs and their success stories or challenges they had to overcome, but there are very few about current day women and what they've gone through, and definitely not specific articles sharing what African American business women have gone through. So my question to you is, what did you do not having that role model, that entrepreneur role model previously? What did you do when you got stuck or overwhelmed, ran out of money, or possibly felt like quitting?
I cried.
Yes.
I prayed.
Amen.
I meditated. I continued to work and have faith. But it was many a night that I cried. I said, God, now you done brought me here. I need you to take me to the next step because I kind of worked it piece by piece. Like I said earlier, it was hard for me to look way down the road. Like a lot of mentors will tell you, you need to know what your 3-year and your 5-year. I'm trying to get to next month. I'm trying to get 6 months from now, you know. So I live my life, and I've always have is basing it on 90 days at a time because it's just easier to break it down that way. You can see yourself in 90 days better than you can if you say, well, what about 5 years from now? So I cried, I meditated, I continued to work and have faith throughout that I believe that if God brought it to me, that there was a way for it to happen.
And what didn't you have when you were building your business that you wish you would have had?
Marketing and sales skills. I'm not a good salesperson. And as I learned through this whole thing is that I tried to do it all. And it was because I didn't know that you don't have to do it all. I did it all because that's what I thought I had to do. And I knew where my areas of weakness were, and that was in marketing and sales because I'm a behind-the-scenes person. I like to, this is what I need to get done and get it done. It's hard for me to say, oh, please, can you come help me? Because guess what? I've always did it by myself. That's what I wish I would have known in the beginning, is to either know how to ask for that help or to have those marketing and sales skills myself.
So can you share a business challenge, a hardship, or a hurdle that you went through with regard to marketing and sales?
Yes. A marketing hurdle that I went through, going through the whole business process, was actually putting the business out there, like sharing it with other people and opening up enough to be able to share with other people what I was doing. Because like I said, I was a very closed person, and I would get into a study room and do things on my own and put steps by steps and stuff. And I wasn't used to reaching out. And so when it came to marketing and actually having to put your business out there and go tell people about it and all that stuff, I didn't feel comfortable in the beginning. And
That's
then
good.
with the sales part of it, I've just never been a salesman. I mean, I'm just not a good salesperson because when I say sales, a lot of people look at it as that you're trying to sell them something. Whereas I felt like if I've created something or if God given me something, that I'll just put it out there. And if it's going to help somebody, in the beginning, like I said, I didn't know, well, you're supposed to charge somebody for certain stuff. I would just tell people. They would ask me for advice all the time. And I'm like,
Right.
Yeah, sure, okay. And then I would find myself day in and day out constantly helping people get back in school, helping people this and that. And it started to wear me out. I mean, between everything I had going on, and with my first business coach, she said, this is why coaches charge for what they do, because if you don't put a price and a value and know what you're worth onto what it is that you're doing, people will continue to take from you, and you're going to be drained. And that's what was happening to me because I didn't know any better. That's
a great share. Absolutely. So I'm going to switch the interview up a little bit, get something out of my system. Our black businessmen are showing us out, and that's not going to work. Tyler Perry has shared his homeless to success story. Eric Thomas, the motivational hip-hop preacher, has a homeless to PhD story. So us women, we've got to get our stories out and document it so African-American women in business have some inspiration when they're feeling low or searching online to learn what other women did in challenging times. We need our rags to riches stories. So, LaQuita, what's your hero story? Let's see if we can kind of frame it together. So maybe you're pregnant to married to successful business. I don't know. What do you think? Single mom.
I would say single mom to being successfully married and actually having my miracle baby that I prayed for and asked God for so long.
Amen.
Honestly, just summing it up, my story is I never gave up on my dreams, no matter what it was. I'm still dreaming to this day. When I accomplish one thing, I have something else that I want to accomplish from there, no matter what. No matter what it is, I went from being a single parent on welfare, and even then, just the story of me not quitting when I was pregnant in the beginning of college, where most people get pregnant and they leave, and I said no. Right. I want to have a better life than what, give my son a better life than what I had, and I pushed my way through. And I didn't give up. And even when the job came and went, and, I had to quit several jobs because my kid was ill, I did what I had to do to get where I needed to go for the next step. Then I got pregnant again and never gave up. No matter what I was hit with, I continued to say, okay, this is just another stepping stone. Once I get past this, I'll be stronger, I'll be wiser, and I'll be better prepared for the next level that God is getting ready to take me to.
And I commend you for that, honestly. So many women would not have pressed through all of those hurdles and hills. So I commend you for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
So let's talk now about collaboration. What are your thoughts on collaboration instead of competition in business?
I believe that in creating a successful business, there is no competition, because I'm a firm believer that when God gives you a divine assignment, that is your assignment. Nobody else can take it from you. You have no need to compete.
I love that, because one of the things I share with business owners, especially women, is how they can succeed without having to compete by implementing the power of positioning and leveraging the media to build their brand. So I also believe that the only person that you should really be competing with is yourself by raising your own bar.
Exactly. I definitely agree with that. I definitely agree.
So how do you think we can move forward and turn that growing number of African American women in business into successful million, multi-million, and billion-dollar businesses? How do you think we can move forward and help?
I believe that if more African American successful business owners would reach back, educate other African American women, then to believe in themselves and know their worth, and then rinse and repeat the same business cycle that they did, which means basically you're teaching them exactly what you did so that they can go out and teach other women to do the same thing. Because that's pretty much how I learned. I didn't have a lot of examples growing up, so what I did is I started going to the library, and I would look up books from Oprah and all these different people. I didn't even just do women. I did men, too. I mean, I started pulling these books and doing research and taking out a notepad and a pen and writing down things that I like about certain people and where I want to be. These are people I looked up to. And how can I get to this point? How can I do this? And that's where it began for me. So I believe that if we would reach back and help other women, which is truly my deepest desire, is to teach other women to do exactly what I did and be unstoppable and fearless and go out there and teach other women, young women, to do the same thing.
That's excellent. And so what's your best piece of advice for other Black women in business, entrepreneurs, building their business, and those that may be struggling with finding startup capital or considering quitting and going back and getting a job? What's your best piece of advice to them?
First, I would say don't give up. Second, I would say that if God gave you the vision and desire, then there is a way for everything you need to be accomplished, even with little money, no job, and lack of skill.
That's great.
So it's definitely a lot of information out there available online and through the local libraries that is really nearly impossible to say that you can't get the business started if God gave it to you.
Mm-hmm. And what impact would you like to make as a African American woman-owned business over the next 10 years? What impact would you like to make?
I would like to have had a phenomenal impact on millions of women through speaking my products and services and basically just teaching them and giving them the knowledge, just like I did, to help impact other women all across the world.
And do you have a mentor or a coach, business coach, at this juncture in your business?
At this very moment, I do not. I just finished with a business coach actually in January to relaunch my brand. So I just finished up literally just over 2 months ago. Okay.
Excellent. Do you have a suggestion for Black women in business on how to approach or seek a mentor or coach?
Yes, I do. The best advice I can give when you are looking for a mentor or coach is to find someone who feels right to you, not just mentally, but like deep within, because eventually I started out finding somebody that mentally felt right for me, but then when it got down to what I really wanted inside, it wasn't right for me. And so you may have to, it is so many of them out there, you really have to do research when it comes to finding a mentor or coach, because you need to be able to fit, like, it really needs to fit like a glove. They need to understand what it is that you're trying to create and be able to fit right in without changing your vision or trying to get you to divert to what they want you to do, as opposed to them just coming on board to really help you get where you want to go.
That's great advice. Thank you for that. Yeah.
You're welcome.
So can you share 5 success tips with us? What are your 5 success tips?
My 5 success tips are quite different.
Oh, good.
Than what most people would say, because I'm going to tell you all something that I actually had to divulge in to actually be successful myself. The first thing I would require or say is a good tip is to increase your vibration. So many times when we're trying to build a business, we get really intense, and like, especially if you're a single parent and you do like I did, where nothing else matters. I'm trying to get this business up, and you don't think about nothing else. And one of the things I've learned over the last couple of years is you want to increase your vibration or your frequency and do something to help you relax. Because I noticed that once you're actually relaxing, and you're actually giving your mind time to sit and think and not constantly be on the go. What do I need to do next? What is this? You actually give yourself time to relax. You actually come up with things that are very creative to help you get further along than if you're always tense and got something going on. So I pray and meditate a lot.
Okay, so what's number 2?
Pretty much every morning. Okay. And number 2 would be own your own power. Embrace your inner power. You're so much stronger than what you think you are. And if you really get really clear on what your desires are and set some personal boundaries in your life, learn how to embrace your own power. It will make you more confident in this journey of starting a successful business.
That's great. And number 3?
Number 3, it would be to eliminate self-sabotage. Get rid of all the stories you tell yourself about how you can't do, or if something come up, I can't, or, just get rid of all the negative crap. That's what I call it. Get rid of all the negative crap and BS that you have holding on to, because none of that is going to help you on this journey of being successful in starting a business. Okay.
Number 4?
Number 4 would be become aware of your own money story. We all get into business because eventually one of the things we all want is money. And a lot of people don't realize that when starting a business, if you don't know what your own money story is, that you can definitely cause issues when money start coming in, and you cannot progress and succeed if you don't know how to deal with money, or if you were raised with no examples of how to, like, as far as credit. I don't want to get all into it, but, knowing what your credit score is, knowing what your money habits are, identifying negative belief systems and replacing them with positive ones about what money is supposed to be for and how to use it. That's all part of being a successful business owner.
And your number 5?
And my number 5 would be to eliminate all fear, doubt, and worry. Everything. If you are a child of God, if you believe in any superior, being able to give you anything, you should never be fearing, doubt, or worrying. We all face it, but you have to know that if this is a journey that God gave you, that you have nothing to fear. You have nothing to doubt or worry about, because it's all going to be okay.
Those are unique, and I really appreciate you taking time to share those. I think those are extremely valuable success tips.
Thank you.
Can you recommend 2 books that every woman should read?
I surely can. I recommend The Science of Getting Rich, and also The Exit Strategy, which is actually my book that I released last year while I was pregnant. I wrote a book called Exit Strategy through a friend of mine who was doing what we were talking about earlier. She wanted to leave her job. She had already started a business on the side and didn't know how to leave her job. And I sat on the phone with her and told her what I would do if it was me. And she said, oh, wow, that would be a good exit strategy. And that's exactly how this book was born. I put a book together, a 90-day guide to teach women how to get their business started within 90 days. And
what a great
how
share.
to actually, how to exit the corporate world in 90 days through this exit strategy guide.
That's great. Thank you for sharing both of those. And thank you for taking the time to give back and share your journey as a Black woman in business. Where can readers and our listeners get more information about you?
They can find me on Facebook, of course, at LaQuita Sharee Lewis-Poole, Poole, or at my website at www.LSLP Global, Global, Empowerment, EMPOWERMENT.com.
Excellent. Thank you again for joining the show. And everyone remember, lead with value and the revenue will follow.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.